Clerks will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3. J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Dr. Bob Mullen from the Westworth Church of Christ in White Settlement. After the invocation, please remain standing for the pledges. Thank you very much for coming out today.
Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners. Let us pray. God, we rejoice and thank you for this beautiful day that you have made. We are thankful for the freedoms we enjoy as a nation and our freedom to choose our own civic leaders. Our prayer is that you will bless Judge Whitley and the members of the Commissioners Court today as they hear information about many important matters affecting many people. May the decisions they make today reflect your providence and goodness. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We just need to pray.
Thank you again.
Just 5 members.
Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 3 announcements for you this morning as relates to the agenda. First of all, under the Administrator's Office, item A1, this concerns a tax abatement agreement with the town of Westlake. We're going to ask that we hold that item for next week. Also, under the Administrator's Section, item 2, this also concerns a tax abatement relating to the tower project in Fort Worth. We're going to ask that that item be considered after closed session today. And then under Transportation Services, item 9H2, this concerns easement issues with the City of Fort Worth. We're going to ask that that particular item be held for a week. Just to remind some of the members of court, tomorrow at 2:30 there is a PEBC meeting at COG. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes of the April 8th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Brooks, if you'll. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations, but we also have recognition of our 2008 Public Health Poster Contest winners. Where is, there she is. Come on forward, and Vanessa Joseph.
Yes. Well, good morning. We're here to recognize the 2008 Public Health Week Poster Contest winners. The theme of this year's contest was Going Green for a Healthier Tomorrow, and we are proud to have the students, some of their parents, and teachers here today. And while the students come up, we're going to start going through some of their artwork, which many of you may have already seen on Channel 5. They've been gracious enough to help us each year by recognizing the students and showing their artwork.
Very nice.
Very
Give the
nice.
system a little technology. Okay. Our first grade winner is Trevor Geneva. Trevor goes to R.F. Patterson Elementary School. His teacher is Rochelle Martin. Rochelle McLean. Not only does his artwork offer specific steps anyone can take, it also ties these steps into the bigger picture, starting from family, moving to school, and the total global concept. And Trevor has on a great T-shirt. What does your T-shirt say? Save trees, eliminate homework. Okay.
I'm
man.
Good for you, Trevor.
Our second grade winner is
Vanessa,
Lauren.
would you tell us what school districts these are
Yes,
involved?
yes. R.F. Patterson Elementary, and Trevor is in Kennedale.
Okay,
And again, his teacher is Rochelle McLean.
thank you.
Lauren Jackson, our second grade winner, is from Remington Point Elementary in Saginaw. And Shannon Jackson is her teacher. This is the second time that Lauren has been with us, so welcome again. Her artwork shows a sad earth on one side that is suffering from pollution, deforestation, and litter, while the other side is clean with lush possibilities.
I think I see some artistic talent.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Our third grade winner who's here with us today, Kendall Barnes, R.F. Patterson Elementary in Kennedale. Rochelle McLean, the teacher again. Now, her poster uses several examples of action that anyone can take to underscore the theme of the contest. This is also Kendall's second time with her. We're expecting Meredith Rice, our sixth grade winner, so if she joins us, we'll bring her up. Meredith, here's her poster. She's from Eubanks Intermediate School in South Lake. Evie Hooten is the teacher. And when you look at her poster, it expresses a lot with the original statement, "Our hands can make a difference," stressing that each person can take individual action and responsibility to clean up the environment. And you'll notice the before possibilities on one side of the girl and the other possibilities on the other. Our seventh grade winner, Maria Ortiz, Irma Marsh Middle School in River Oaks. Pamela Spangler is the teacher. Maria incorporates subtle symbols of the environment with the rhyming plea, "Don't be mean, hug a tree, pick up debris, let's go green." Our eighth grade winner is April Dock. April is also from Irma Marsh Middle School in River Oaks. Pamela Spangler, again the teacher. In this poster, we see a girl planting a tree and another picking up litter in the shadow of a wind power generator, and the statement is, there is a solution to pollution. All of our students are to be commended for the time they spent. The theme, Going Green for a Healthier Tomorrow, was a bit challenging because it was different from what we had before, so they really rose to the occasion. Thank you.
Turn around so we can see those.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
yeah,
You guys
those are
turn
very
around so they
good.
can see your artwork.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for beautiful work.
Wonderful.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We need to get some pictures. So why don't we get the kids up there with a cord?
Oh, fantastic.
Cool.
Here, kids, come around here.
There we go. Come on over here and we'll get y'all up front. Yeah,
We don't want you to cover your face up.
yeah, let's keep it.
I think you guys need to hold the poster. You can't see 'em.
Maybe we hold the
Above
post.
them.
Best shot of the day. We were not.
The parents are really having a hard time with this. Thank
You
you.
did a very good job. Y'all are great. Thank you, brother. Thank y'all again. We have a couple of proclamations. Our first proclamation is for National Crime Victims Week, and I believe Lori Clarida from the Victims Assistance Coordinator for the Sheriff's Department is here. Come forward, and I'll read this into the record. Good morning. Whereas 23 million Americans are victims of crime each year, of those 5.2 are victims of violent crime, and whereas a nation devoted to liberty and justice for all, America must increase its efforts to protect, restore, and expand crime victims' rights and services so that they apply to every victim every time, and whereas we must do a better to ensure services are available for underserved segments of our population, including crime victims with disabilities, victims with mental illnesses, victims who are teenagers, victims who are elderly, victims in rural areas, and victims in communities of color. And whereas observing victims' rights and treating victims with dignity and respect serves the public interest by engaging victims in the justice system, inspiring respect for public authorities, and promoting confidence in public safety. And whereas America recognizes that we make our homes, neighborhoods, and communities safer and stronger by serving victims of crime and ensuring justice for all, and whereas the National Crime Victims Week, Rights Week, April 13th through 19th, 2008, provides an opportunity for us to strive to reach the goal of justice for all by ensuring that all victims are afforded their legal rights and provided with assistance as they face the financial, physical, and psychological impact of crime. And whereas the Tarrant County Coalition of Crime Victim Services is joining forces with victim services, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout Tarrant County and America to raise awareness about victims' rights and observe the 28th National Crime Victims' Rights Week, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th through 19th, 2008, to be Crime Victims' Rights Week throughout Tarrant County, and reaffirm this county's commitment to respect and enforce victims' rights and address their needs during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year. Be it further resolved that we express our appreciation for those victims and crime survivors who have turned personal tragedy into a motivating force to improve our response to victims of crime and build a more just community. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of April, 2008.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Make any comments that you'd like to make?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. I would like to let everyone know that we being the Tarrant County Coalition of Crime Victim Services, is holding our 5th annual tree planting and tribute to victims this Thursday, 10 a.m. at the Resource Connection. And I would also like to thank Judy Ketchum. Judy has been very helpful this year in organizing this event. And Commissioner Brooks, I know that you will be joining us Thursday morning. And also Sheriff Anderson will be joining us. You're going, yes? Okay. And I would like to extend the invitation to all the commissioners, the judge, and the community to come out and join us at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. The next proclamation is Youth Financial Literacy Month, and Catherine Rotters here. Come on forward. I see other members of our credit union staff. Appreciate y'all's work. Whereas the young people of our community represent the nation's single greatest resource, who in the years ahead will assume leadership positions and responsibility for advancement of our society, and whereas guidance and education in the development of fiscal responsibility are essential for success in developing the qualities necessary for assuming these positions, and whereas the credit unions of our nation endeavor to provide the tools to enable our youth to deal with the intricacies of personal finance in the areas of saving for the future, personal checking, and understanding and using credit wisely. And whereas the Credit Union Youth Week highlights the commitment of the credit unions throughout the nation to strengthen the financial knowledge of our youth, and whereas the Tarrant County Credit Union supports these efforts by offering youth savings programs and education through the National Endowment for Financial Education, by attending career days at area schools, you don't let Catherine go to schools, do you?
Oh, yeah, they do.
By participating in charitable programs for underprivileged elementary children, and by providing scholarship opportunities for continuing education for its young members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners' Court of Tarrant County, as a demonstration of our support, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2000 and we need to change the proclamation to 8 as Youth Financial Literacy Month throughout this county. Be it further resolved that we encourage all citizens of Tarrant County to recognize the importance of saving, investing, and having financial goals. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of April, 2008. I move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. How appropriate that this comes on tax day.
How appropriate.
One of my favorite days of the year.
Something a little odd about you, Judge.
He picks and chooses.
Something that a number of folks have recognized. Where are we going to take
Picks and chooses who he walks through.
Well, that's true.
Make any comments?
I know you're surprised. First of all, Judge, I would like to thank you for recognizing this about education youth for the entire month of April. Also, I'd like to thank Commissioner Brooks and Commissioner Fickus because they have allowed us to use their public meeting rooms to have these youth programs. Last weekend, we had one called Being Independent, which was the kids to learn what is a checking book, how do I save, what is credit, and those types of issues, and it went very well. That one was at the Northeast Sub Courthouse. This coming Saturday, we will be having another workshop, and this one is, Are You Prepared for College? We have a counselor from the middle school in Keller coming to speak and talk to these children and their parents about college and what to expect and what to prepare for. Once again, thank you guys for recognizing this, and as you guys do know, we do believe in the continuation of education for our youth as an example of our scholarships that we are offering for children that are graduating from high school as well as those who are continuing on. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I really do want to thank you. You know, Catherine visits all of our, I was going to say garages. I guess I don't have one of those anymore. But all of the maintenance, works with all the folks in Tarrant County. I think is a great ambassador for the credit union and really for Tarrant County, and we really do appreciate the work you do. I know I give you a hard time a lot, but it's because I see you out there and among our folks and really trying to help them out, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next proclamation is for ratification. It's the Garden of Life Spring Celebration Day, and I will move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And Commissioner Brooks, I believe the next one you have, is that also for ratification?
The next one is for ratification, but it is to recognize the varsity basketball team, boys basketball team at North Crowley High School for winning the state basketball championship in the 5A division. It was presented this past Saturday at a rousing pep rally at the school located in Precinct 1. And we're proud of these young men. They're not only good athletes, they're good students as well. And so I move for ratification of this
Second.
proclamation.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have,
Yes, I have a National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week resolution, and if you would read that into the record, please.
okay. Whereas 911 service enables citizens to use one easily remembered number to report emergencies requiring a response from police, fire, sheriff, or emergency medical personnel, and whereas nearly 800 dedicated 911 call takers and dispatchers in the 39 public safety communications centers supported by the Tarrant County 911 District daily serve the citizens of Tarrant County by responding to over 160,000 calls each month and dispatching emergency calls as quickly as possible. And whereas the district's 20-cent per month service fee is the lowest in the state and has not been increased in its 20 years of existence. And whereas Tarrant County 911 District maintains its commitment to providing 911 public education curriculum and materials countywide, ensuring that all citizens are educated on how to access 911 in times of emergency. And whereas the district's public awareness programs have been recognized nationally and have received awards from the Public Relations Society of America, Texas Public Relations Association, and the International Association of Business Communicators. And whereas the district's 911 Kid Heroes program has produced 3 young award winners honored by the United States Congressional E911 Caucus in Washington, D.C., and its wireless testing program and VoIP testing program are widely recognized as models and have been adopted by other states' 911 programs. And whereas the Tarrant County 911 District staff members have held leadership positions in industry professional associations for 20 years, while call takers and dispatchers have been honored as best in the state since the 1988 inception of the Telecommunicator of the Year Awards program is administered by the Commission on State Emergency Communications. And whereas the district is observing the 20th anniversary of 911 service in Tarrant County and has been selected to host the 2009 National Emergency Number Association's National Convention. And whereas April 13th through 19th, 2008 is National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate the Tarrant County 911 Emergency Assistance District and all public safety telecommunicators for the outstanding service to the people of Tarrant County and proclaim April 15th, 2008 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Day in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of the Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of April, 2008.
Move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And we have in the crowd today Elisa Simons, Public Marketing Manager, if these folks would come forward, Wanda McCarley, Assistant Director of Operations, and Lieutenant Jeremy Penrod and Sergeant Brett Crisp, Sheriff's Telecommunications, to receive this plaque.
Good morning. On behalf of Greg Petrie, Executive Director of the Tarrant County 911 District, our staff and our Board of Managers, thank you for this proclamation. The management and staff of Tarrant County's 911 District strive to serve, and we are grateful for the opportunity to do so. You have made some very important points in your resolution. Many times the 911 focus is on technology. Technology is nothing without the dedicated, talented, committed professionals who impact countless lives as they answer 911 calls every hour of every day. Likewise, our 911 public educators contribute to the safety of our citizens in a multitude of ways. Although we appreciate them every day, it is at this time every year that we remind ourselves of the people who make 911 so effective. Today we remember, honor them, and give them recognition for all they do. Thank you for this resolution and for recognizing the service of our public safety communications professionals and the job they do daily to make Tarrant County safer and this nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'll turn around here, on the resolution. Any others want to make any comments? Feel free to do so.
I'd just like to add my thanks to those expressed by Elisa. Tarrant County is so fortunate to have such a wonderful sense of community and to have in that community the experts, the professionals who make 911 such a workable and safe solution for our citizens. So thank you for recognizing.
Thank you very much. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the court agenda, or the consent agenda. Court agenda, too, would be nice, but we'll just go ahead with the consent right now. If there's no other discussion, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
I was just getting ready to go into closed session.
You can go ahead and leave if you'd like to. We have a public hearing today on the to consider the program year 2008 Consolidated Action Plan Community Development. Ms. Ward?
Good morning. We're requesting the Commissioners Court hold a public hearing today to receive citizen input on the 2008 Consolidated Plan, which determines the distribution of CDBG, home, ADDI, and ESG grant funds. The total program this year is $9,965,300. That's a reallocation of approximately $4.9 million of home money, with the current allocations from CDBG, from Tarrant County, which is $2.7 million, Euless, which is $375,000, and North Richland Hills, which is $323,000. And of home, for the current allocation, it's $1.1 million. If you have any questions, I'll be able to answer those for you. If not, the purpose of today's public hearing is to receive input from the citizens.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak at this time? Appearing none, then we'll close the public hearing. Okay, that's all we do today.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The administrator went to close.
Well, I know it. I was going to call on the facilities management, but I guess we'll give him a shot. Oh, we're going to do some oil and gas.
Yes.
Big dollars per acre.
Members of the court, a week ago to item 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve a oil and gas lease agreement between Tarrant County and XTO Energy. This relates to the lease of oil and gas mineral rights that are owned by the county on 7.41 acres of land, which is the southwest of Courthouse. This is we are to receive as a signing bonus $106,044.51, which represents $14,311 per acre, and a 25% royalty.
Heck of a lot more than they're offering in my neighborhood currently, which is about 3 miles to the west.
We'll just be proud that you have mineral rights.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, members of the court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the court approve a oil and gas lease agreement between Tarrant County and XTO Energy. This is for 2.5 acres of land, more or less, which consists of various right-of-way parcels. The signing bonus on this is $29,442.50, which represents $11,777 per acre, plus a 25% royalty.
Where is this?
This is located off of 377, north of 820.
So your land's not worth as much as Roy's.
No, that's true. We're out in poor country. Move approval.
Second. And I'm going to leave that alone.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, members of the court, on item number 5, we're requesting that the court consider and approve an exception to the county's travel policy as it relates to Criminal District Court number 1.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And finally, Your Honor, members of the court, on item number 6, we are again asking the court to consider and to approve an exception to the county travel policy. This relates to the Domestic Relations Office.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 It is requested that Commissioners Court approve an architectural and engineering contract with Elements of Architecture for the design services related to the alterations in the 1895 courthouse for the county clerk and title companies.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve the Facilities Management Department's project management organizational structure that provides for hiring a project management firm for the 2006 capital improvement program, medical examiner's office, and jail projects, and allows for the hiring of a new regular full-time entry-level project management position to assist with ongoing capital projects.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I guess I would just continue my objection to the property management company. Again, it just seems to me like we're putting a third consultant in amongst two already. And what's the estimated cost of the consultants that we're talking about for just two projects?
Yes, sir. Just two projects would be, it depends on how long the project lasts. I would say between $800,000 and $1 million, somewhere in that. Once we get the construction time tied down, we'll have a better feel for it.
And again, my concern goes to the fact that both of the people, in both instances, both the medical examiner as in the jail, the architectural firm and construction folks that we picked both come in talking about their specific expertise or the people who they're partnering with in their abilities to design, whether it be a medical examiner's office or a jail. And we're going out and hiring that again, and I think we're just creating some place that we're going to end up spending dollars, and I hope it doesn't take away from our beds in the jail or our space in the medical examiners in order to stay in budget.
Judge, let me mention this. We did ask Gideon Toll and Gilbane Building Company to look at our RFP, the scope of services for the project management. They did that. They came back with a staff augmentation cost of about $550,000. That's just for the jail only. That's about $173,000 a year, thereabouts. And so the work of the project management firm is not necessarily in the scope. The basic services of the architect or the construction manager, as evidenced from their proposal that I have.
Okay, I need you to give me a little bit more detail on what you just said.
Okay. Back in October when we first presented this, I went to the construction manager and to the architect team for the jail. Gideon Toll and Gilbane, I met with John Costello, Randy Gideon, and Kevin Crumpler. I gave them a copy of the request for proposal that we sent out for project management services. And it had a list, it had a scope of services for project management that I used from peers and other folks that I put it together. They looked at that and thought it was a fairly comprehensive project management scope of services, and they came back with a proposal for additional services over what their normal services would be in a construction management role or an architectural role of approximately $550,000, and that was, I think, for for 48 months or something like that in that area. So it came out to be about $173,000 a year. Now, the only issue I have with that, and I told Mr. Costello and Randy Gideon, I do like having another party look at what they're doing. They're only overseeing the architect, but all those construction manager, the geotechnical firm, construction management firm, the test and air balance firm, and several other engineering consultants, roofing design, that facilities management department oversees. We do that for control and quality reasons. We've done that probably for the last 10 or 15 years. They don't oversee that. We control it directly. And it does take quite a bit of coordination, and it's fairly complex working all that in and making it happen. Also,
is that something that we have chosen to do ourselves versus having them do it?
They could do that kind of work. For example, the construction materials testing firm back in the mid-'90s, they go test the concrete for the slabs and so forth, make sure it's the right big specifications. We included that in the general contractor's work for the juvenile center when we expanded it in the mid-'90s. I had issues with it. We have uplifting slabs now, or we repaired them since then, but we've had issues with quality. I couldn't control it, didn't feel comfortable with it. So we've been pulling that out for construction materials testing, test and air balance of the air conditioning and water systems. We pull that out. That's part of we contract directly for control and quality reasons.
Why wouldn't that be a part of what the architect is supposed to do since they design it?
We have construction materials testing engineering firms. Is not typically something an architect would do. They would oversee the site observations. They wouldn't do the actual testing, the slump tests, and so forth.
So is this project management company going to actually do those tests, or are we going to contract it with somebody else?
No, we're going to keep contracting with somebody else. We have an annual contract with the geotechnical and construction materials testing firms already. We've had in place for years. They will oversee that and report directly to me to see what's going on with the project.
Each and every time that we have built a major project in the 17 years that I've been affiliated with this body, we have had someone in the capacity of owner's representative. We need somebody who is responsible only to this commissioner's court, is not responsible to their trade contractors, not responsible to their shareholders, that is only responsible to and is only looking out for the interests of this court. Now, we've got two options, it appears to me. Either we hire it from an independent firm, or we bring it onto the staff.
I think you hit the key right there, though, when you said responsible to the shareholders. And I'm going to tell you that anybody we have out here from a project management standpoint,
I wish you'd let me finish.
go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. The major argument for doing this is that we don't have this expertise in-house. And sure, we could hire it. It might take a while to train it. We are in the process of losing now one of our senior project managers to an outside firm. We're going to be up the creek without a paddle unless we do this. And each firm that presented to us stood there in that well and committed that they would save us more dollars than they cost us. We need to hold them to that. And the whole issue of having to decrease the number of jail beds or decrease the square footage of the medical examiner's office is a red herring as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I guess, again, when you hire an independent firm, if you think those employees are committed to anybody other than that firm, then I think you're seriously mistaken.
They're committed to who pays them.
Well, and that's right. And the person who pays them is the shareholder back at the office who's making sure that they get a profit off of that business. And
I
that's,
just don't buy that.
well, that's what we're paying for the, I want to finish this time. That's what we're paying for with the architecture. Again, I think what I have said all along is that we need, and you're right, we have had people, and they have been paid for and responsible to us. Al Greger was our responsibility
Absolutely.
over at the Family Law Center.
Several projects for
And I believe that he was being paid by us. He was answering only to us, not to an employer, not to shareholders, not to anyone else back at the main office. And I personally believe that what Al brought to the stage was being able to read a set of plans that was designed by an architectural firm that had expertise in the areas that we asked them to have that expertise in, and making sure that the contractor was building to that extent. And we are talking about, if we're going to add $1 million to this deal, you know, I can guarantee you there's not a single one of those folks that will sign something in writing that says if they don't save us as much money as we're paying them, that they're going to write us a check for the difference. And if you're talking about $1 million, we're already talking about whether we're going to be in budget. We've already reduced, to some extent, the public or the medical examiner's space, what he was hoping to get. I don't know where we are in the jail. We were originally scheduled to build 432 beds. You know, you spend $1 million someplace else, somewhere down the line, it's got to take the money out of what the end result in the construction is going to be.
Not if you, in spending that $1 million, save $1 million plus.
Well, and I guess that's what we'll just have to see if we end up with 432 beds.
Judge, the original bond project capital budgets included money for project management.
Well, the original proposal also included money to build the 432 beds in the jail.
Yes, sir.
But what I looked at in briefing for today, which I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I saw where we are decreasing the number of cells that we're going to be building in that jail.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the base option. Now, we're coming to you as we did with the medical examiners. When we came to you in October of 2007, and we came to you with a budget that was over the original $26.5 million for the medical examiners, you asked us to go back and bring something in that's within the $26.5. What I've done with the jail here is to bring you something first that's within the original number. Please be advised that, and I'll present this in my jail presentation, that when we put the program together for the original jail project and finalized it in February of 2006, it included a booking facility for the jail. And at that time, we did not know exactly where the jail was going to go. And we made a decision in March of 2007 of where the jail would go. At that time, we talked about a kitchen, because we had the kitchen over here in a deferred maintenance plan to refurbish the existing kitchen. In March of 2007, Facilities Management recommended, the Sheriff's Department agreed, and the Commissioner's Court approved moving forward with the kitchen in lieu of the booking facility. So get apples to apples, we would have to go back to that, but we have in this budget that you'll get for the jail today, kitchen, and the kitchen alone, for the equipment alone, is about $4 million. So that's something we did not originally plan in our original jail, but it's really the smart thing to do since we're building a new jail downtown, operational. So it was the right thing to do. However, it did set us back on the dollars available for beds. We do have a plan to bring back those beds back into the project, and I'll address that in our jail.
And I do understand that project management was in the original deal, and I remember that we've raised the issue and we've not finalized, and hopefully today, one way or another, at least we'll finalize it, because we've asked questions every time and we didn't end up resolving it, and then it would be 3 to 6 months before we'd see it again. And by then, I'm sorry, I've slept and I've forgotten the discussions that we had the first time we did it. So one of my, I guess, complaints is the fact that, you know, we've been talking about project management and how we were going to do it for at least for a year, maybe a year and a half, and hopefully we will make a decision today.
May I say something? I do support providing as much expertise as it takes to have a quality product when the construction is completed. I don't believe that we have on staff all the expertise that's necessary. I don't believe we can hire for the amount that we're paying the consultant enough people with the variety of expertise that would be necessary to complete this project. So I do support having the additional layer because I think we need it. That we don't have any other way to provide that many different levels of expertise. It's a way to do it. My first building that I saw when I came on this report was the new jail and the new Justice Center. And there were problems for a good 2 years after that that had to be addressed, that perhaps another level of oversight would have found a way to not have to spend the additional monies after completion of the project.
Let me please add this, is this also allows us to transition our department, to transition and bring a higher level of competency with this firm. They'll be officing with our existing staff, myself, project coordinator, our project managers. It'll bring them a higher level of knowledge, skills, expertise to move on to the civil courts and juvenile center, which we plan to do in-house. So we certainly would like to bring those type of, the higher level of skill in that we think this type of firm would bring in.
So there would be some significant knowledge transfer.
That is our goal. That is our goal.
When you say knowledge transfer, you're saying, explain how they're going to transfer, how these consultants who are experts in the jail and in the examiner's office are going to transfer knowledge to the new folks that are coming in.
Judge, the project management industry and construction is a whole separate group of people that oversees large, complex projects. The way they oversee and do the document control, as far as how they handle putting together schedules and how they keep architects and construction managers on task, at least in a positive manner. And we're looking forward to those kind of things. And as far as they handle the overall process regarding delivering the project, looking at what are the proper milestones, where's the proper analysis need to be at this level of project. We don't actually have that, and we hope to gain that in-house, and because they'll be working side to side with these other groups. And we certainly expect that to transfer over, because we do, after these two projects, the medical examiner and jail, we still have $100 million in bond projects to deliver, and we hope to deliver those in-house successfully.
I'd just like to make one final comment about that, about this whole issue, and that is that these project management firms only do project management. They don't do architectural design. They don't do construction management. They maintain their integrity only by working for owners.
One of the groups that presented before us did construction also, and the specific question that was asked of them was, on how many different occasions do you have project managers overseeing your work? And they said at that point in time I don't believe they'd had anybody. There were two firms. One of them did do construction also. And I don't know if it's the one that we've picked or not, to be honest with you. Are they here?
No, they're not here. It's the team.
Turn around and look around and make sure. I guess that's all the, because that's the construction and the architects.
Yes.
That's the ones that's going to tell us
how many beds we're going to build.
432
beds.
Yes, Commissioner, that's the ones.
Good. Looking forward.
Do you know whether or not the firm that we selected does do only project management, or do they also do construction?
Broadus out of Austin, Texas, only does project management. Now, they teamed up with KAI, which is out of Dallas, as their partner, and I believe they're the one that made that statement that you mentioned.
Well, Glenn, we're to the point to where I'm hearing from our facilities director that he needs help, that he doesn't have the in-house people to do this project. And I think that we've delayed this project long enough. I'm tired of delays, and I'm ready to vote in favor of moving forward.
Call the question.
Please vote. Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you.
Ms. Glenn.
I move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Please vote.
Thank you very much.
Motion passes
Thank you
unanimously.
kindly.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, members of the court, we have two items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2008-084. It's our semi-annual contract for copy, paper, and stock computer forms. The recommendation will be to award to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. In that, and I haven't looked at the specific bid, does that also allow for recycled paper?
Does that true?
For some recycled paper or for purchase?
Purchase.
Some of the products are recycled, but not the majority of them. It is more expensive because it's recycled paper. And
Okay. I think we need to really, again, put forth the effort on the recycle. I do understand that it may be more expensive, but I think that needs to be something that as we develop our policy, I know we've talked about doing that.
Would that be something that would be appropriate as we go forward for our budget to say that we're going to use recycled paper?
I think it's something that we should discuss as we go into it. But I mean, I understand that when we make the commitment for recycling, that it's going to be more expensive, but I also believe that we're making that commitment.
We can add, when we prepared the report that we passed out 2 weeks ago, I believe now, we did look at those prices, and we can add those items as an add to and give people choices. But it has proven in many cases to be more expensive. We can certainly do that, not a problem at all.
It goes back to the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, Glenn, about how we need a green policy for this county.
And I believe that policy may be more as opposed to giving choices. It may be saying, this is where we're going, and, you know.
We're good to go with that.
And when we make those kind of commitments, we're serious about it, and there aren't going to be the end runs that people may be trying. It's important that we look not only for now, but for the future. And that's just one small way that we can make a commitment.
And I think, Debbie, from the budget standpoint, that's something that as you begin going over, I mean, I think with regards to supplies or with regards to vehicles or with regards to anything that we're doing that potentially, I mean, I think that's what we'll discuss when we look at the policy and kind of go forward on that. But it's, we understand, at least I feel like there's a cost to it, and I'm, just as we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, a green building with our folks along the back wall.
I think it's an education process also, and something we can do in the immediate future. Since we have a listing and a pricer from our office supply vendor, Corporate Express, we a couple of times throughout the year try to put on trade shows, if you wish, to talk about and display new products. We can certainly ask them to set up a show and tell on green products, which they have available to us on our existing contract. That's something to be done within the next couple, 3 months. Not a problem.
And if all the paper we buy is recycled, you might be surprised how much cheaper the price gets based on volume.
And I know that we have piggybacked, other entities piggyback with our project. They may not be ready to make that commitment, but I think we could set a good example. And I think that that's something across the board that we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at the people who do our lawn care, if they do, how they approach that. Is it with thinking green when they're doing it, or is it the same old way of a lot of chemicals? I think that we need to be looking at every opportunity to address what's available and then make it available, and then by budget time, our policy would be ready, and then we could be able to make some firm commitments.
Certainly.
I think the same thing is, you're right when you mentioned that, maintenance within the buildings, within our own buildings.
That's what I was trying to get to. My phone's not working too well, so for some reason.
Right, and we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is also a bid award recommendation in regards to bid number 2008-081. This is our annual contract for automotive and light truck parts and supplies. Our recommendation would be to award by total category pricing and a fixed discount from list pricing to the primary and secondary vendors shown in your court communique also.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jack. Mr. Skinner, come on down.
Members of the court, we request that the court rescind court order number 101878 and approve a revised renewal agreement with the City of Azle with regard to the Denver Trail extension.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Appointments. I have one appointment. Last week we appointed two folks to our Civil Service Commission. The third, when we called to talk with her, had indicated that she needed to resign also, and so I would like to move that we appoint Glenn Lewis on to the Civil Service Commission. And one of the reasons that I looked at Glenn, or I make his motion, is that he has served on there before, I think many years ago, and will offer some experience to the new folks who have not had an opportunity to do that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any other appointments? Court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move for approval for claims including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius, briefing items.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have an item to bring to the court this morning. This concerns issues concerning the 2006 capital improvement program, specifically the jail facilities building. It's the capital budget and space planning. We have got several presenters. Mr. Phillips, you're going to lay this out for us. Mr. Phillips is here to address the court at this time.
Judge, are we ready?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I'd like to first off apologize to the delay of bringing the jail project budget and program to you. We originally had this planned for February the 26th. However, the first Gilbane cost estimate we received back after the architects took their first pass of design, we received that particular cost estimate in mid-January, and it was more than we anticipated. We spent the last 75 days working through the design, materials and such, working the project cost down, and we've worked it down to this point. We've been able to reduce it $7 million up to this point. So it was a very productive 75 days. And I'd like to mention, again, on the kitchen, just to make sure you're aware and to try to get apples to apples, when we put the project together, the sheriff's requirements were the 432 beds, a booking facility, and offices. And once we located the jail at the Mueller site, we had discussions in court about the booking and the kitchen. We brought that up, and the beds. And at that point in time, it was decided to go ahead and exchange the kitchen for the booking facility, since they could leave the existing booking facility as is. So the kitchen needs were more immediate. We had always had the kitchen separate because it was more of a renovation project, completely separate, and the fact that we did not know the location of the jail yet, so it was undetermined at that time. What has happened, we've tried our best, the team has tried our best, the architects, construction manager, the sheriff's department, and facilities management has tried their best to get it back down to within the original budget with the kitchen in it. And like I said before, the kitchen equipment alone estimate is approximately $4 million. So we're getting real close to the point where we'd like to present it to you today. First, we'll go over the total capital budget. Then we'll talk about the space requirements in the jail. We'll do it again like we did the medical examiner's facility project. We'll provide you some options to consider. We'll have Randy Gideon with Gideon Toll and Don Olson with Wigington Hooker Jeffrey Architects, the design consultant for the jail. They will present the jail drawings to you. Then we will move on to the recommendations from the court for the next steps. This is just a recap of what the court approved and the voters approved back in May of 2006. There's three components to this jail facility's $108 million project. The last one, the sheriff's administrative offices, was originally $6.6 million when we originally put it together. I've moved. As we learn more about the project and buy things out and move along with time, we're able to reevaluate some of those costs. We've able to save approximately $400,000 on the offices. They're not quite finished, but we think that's our expectations is to come in at $400,000 less than we anticipated. I have moved the $400,000 up to the jail line to augment that. Also, the Records Management Center is approximately $10 million. The Records Management Center included not only a Records Management Center, it also included some offices and a separate building for the District Attorney's Narcotics Unit. At that time, in this project, we were going to have to relocate them also. We went with a different direction in our leasing space. So the Records Management Center, of that $10 million, about $7 to $7.5 million is actually the Records Management Center. The balance of it, the 2.5 or so, is other space that we did not have to build. So that may or may not be available to you for a jail cost. So.
David, let me be sure. You're saying that the 91.8 originally started out as 91.4 and the 6.2 originally started out as 6.6?
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay.
Now, what we're going to talk about on the next slide is really just the 91.8. This is the detailed budget line items for the updated, as of last month, of the jail project. The site work is the demolition and the environmental cleanup of the Mueller site. The next line of construction contracts, which is the Gilbane guaranteed maximum price. That's the number we've been working hard on for the last 75 days. And that $74,760,000 will provide that base budget, Commissioner, which we'll present. But we do have some alternates and options for bringing the bed numbers back up. Professional services is the next one. That's not only the architect's engineering fees, that's also the design fees for the construction manager during design. That's construction materials testing, that's roof services, design services, that's geotechnical services, test and air balance services, and the list goes on.
And program management.
And project management. Moving on down, the utility improvements is a big number at $2.3 million. $2 million of that is our plug number for the electrical company to come in and hook up the underground utilities to the jail. Currently, at that site, it's overhead lines on a pole. We're recommending we go with underground grid like we have this building and the law center. It's much, much more reliable power. And the owner's contingency, the very last line, is 4.3. That's approximately 5% of the overall project.
And David, you're saying that bills what you've got included up there in the box above the capital budget?
I'm sorry.
This right here?
Yes.
So what you're saying is that $91 million bills 336 high-security inmate beds, a shell floor for 96 more high security, which would bring us to the 432, a jail kitchen, and the sheriff's department property room.
We have a copy of that.
Okay. Judge, it builds the building for the 332 beds. It builds
432.
432 beds. It builds the building. However, one of the floors would need to be shelled if we did it for $74,760 to get it within the original $91 million project.
Does that reduced number provide us with adequate beds for a period of time?
I would not speak for the sheriff, but I think they've always requested the 432 number to not only take care of what we have now, is to move on into the future. So at the last slide here, Commissioner, I will recommend that we move forward with design of the additional bed, all the beds, and the court can make a decision as we buy out the project and the numbers get firmer. We can certainly tell what the project's going to cost a bit better once they get deeper in design. And again, what we just talked about, the type of beds in the 336 bed count is 96 male single cells, 96 male separation cells. The separation cells have a shower in them for those folks that they don't let out as often. It also has 96 male medical beds, which is a complete floor, and that will be connected to the correction center, and the architects will talk more about that. Also includes 24 female single cells and 24 female separation cells for those females who they don't let out very often either. It includes the new kitchen, Sheriff's Department property room, which would relocate from the 300 West Belknap site, and a sky bridge and a tunnel connected to the correction center, which was always in the original project.
And you're saying the new kitchen was not in that original project, and that's what you're estimating to be about $4 million?
Yes, that's correct. We had booking. We had a floor for booking, and it was $250 a foot. So it was less than the jail beds were per foot. And generally speaking, they didn't price a booking, so it's hard to get exactly what the premium is for the floor itself. But we just figured the floor for a jail for a booking and a floor for a kitchen might be close to the same. So the delta there, the premium would be for the equipment itself, and it's approximately $4 million. We included a kitchen. We're paying a kitchen consultant who does detention kitchens as far as design. They've priced this project, and they've included it. Gilbane's included it in their cost estimate. Moving forward.
I was going to ask about project manager, but I decided I'd wait.
Thank you. Thank you. Add alternates. Now let's talk about number one. That's the beds, and the $6,025,000 added to the number that Gilbane's been working on, the $74 million. That gets us around $80 to $81 million. That is, and I've got some numbers here for the judge. That's approximately $322 a square foot for the base, and if we add all the beds in, adding the $6 million, $348. So to help you get closer to apples and apples, we had planned on a jail back in February of 2006 at $331. It's now at $348. That's $17 over. That's about 5%. The difference there is what's changed is the kitchen component. So we've had a 5% change there over what we expected. We expected $331 a foot. We have $348. It includes number one.
Okay, so this slide that we're looking at right now, when you say add alternates, what you're saying is if we go with the 91,752, you're saying that to build out the 96 beds, you think would be an extra $6 million.
Yes, that's what we're going to recommend we move forward with design with, and bid it in such a manner, unless the court wants us to go ahead and just include it in the base design. We had planned on just asking to go ahead and move forward with design, let them design it, and Gilbane will build it or bid it in such a manner to provide the court options at that time. Similar to what we did with the Family Law Center with the exterior skin.
Right.
We had options, several options with the granite quantities and such. It would be similar to that concept.
Okay, so that's the first ad. The second ad, you're saying?
The second one is something that we looked at, and it's something the Sheriff's Department would like and is requesting, the court holding. We've talked about having a court holding facility, and they would bring the inmates down to this court holding facility, and it would be on the same level as the tunnel. The bailiffs and others would be able to come get these inmates and bring them up to the courts. Essentially, that is the area of the existing kitchen. We would build the new kitchen. We would renovate the old kitchen for court holding, laundry, and commissary. They've got some issues right now, and I was over there last week. They've got their laundry carts and bleach, gallons of bleach and shelving in the hallways. It's just not a good situation. It's a matter of space. So this also includes area for laundry storage and chemicals and their commissary storage. So this would essentially, that $4.2 million would allow them ample space for court holding and those other areas. You'll see a slide of that in just a minute from the architects.
Just for the court's information, just remember that this is not in the new building. This is in the current corrections center.
Yes.
We take out the old kitchen and do this court holding area. Second of all, this was not something that was originally contemplated in the bond.
Because we had not planned on moving the kitchen at that point.
That's correct.
Yeah. The third one, and Randy Gideon reminded me the day, we don't know if this is an ad alternate, something that we could ask the court to approve design with now and make decision later regarding the money. This is similar. This would be a situation would be where we would actually almost be designing two buildings, because ad alternate 3, or number 3 there, has a lot of components in it that move, and we move beds, and we have to move space components around in the building and in the corrections center, and I'll let Randy discuss that a little bit more. But the cost of that is approximately $6.6 million for the number 3. That really is the space that the court members and GK asked me to look at when we hired Gideon Toll. We programmed the pretrial. The pretrial needs more space. There's no question about that. We looked at magistrates court. We looked at CSCD. We looked at retail. Now, the way when we had to shrink the building over the last 75 days, it didn't allow any of those things that I just mentioned. Those weren't they weren't in the original project to begin with. The court asked us to look at them. We looked at them. The team thinks it'll take essentially building another floor onto the project for those components. The last one is something I presented to you last in March as a deferred maintenance plan project. Also, the court hired a detention security consultant back last year to help us get our handle around the correction center security system and fire alarm system we're having issues with. That is these little photographs here. I just wanted to try to get you a feel for what these things are. This project, essentially, it replaces our security systems and fire alarm systems in the correction center. It is a capital project that we've planned to present that to you this summer as part of our request for the capital budget for FY09. Now, what I want to show you, there's a photograph of a circuit board right here. It says typical dial-lock relay interface circuit board. Those boards haven't been manufactured for several years. The manufacturer went out of business. We have to have those reverse engineered. They have to actually build them from scratch. That's been a problem. We're concerned this particular firm who does this will no longer be doing this soon because of the technology changes. They're just going to get tired of this and go on to something else. So this particular door lock system and intercom system, which there's photos of in here, those components haven't been made for years. We've been reverse engineering them and repairing them as we go.
How long? You're saying years. How many years?
I would think, Commissioner, we had hoped to, we believe that we can keep this system going and maintainable at least till this project's finished, if we include here in our jail. Now, as far as the fire alarm goes, we've been having to buy refurbished fire alarm components, which is that top picture, that little circuit board, and for the last 2 or 3 years because they don't make them anymore. So they come off other projects where they wreck them out and refurbish them and send them to us for replacement. So we're okay now. We're maintaining the systems now. We're doing fine. We have replacement parts. These little boards on the bottom cost about $1,500 to $2,000 each. It's just what it costs.
What do these little boards do? Keep the doors locked?
They allow the security control in the basement, hopefully, to control the doors up on the pods, and there's whole panels of these things, these boards. There's over 600 boards, door lock boards, there's 1,400 smoke detectors, there's all kinds of other little devices. It's a fairly complicated system.
What will it look like in comparison?
The equipment will be a lot smaller. We hope to, also in this $8 million project, is to relocate the existing security control. It's fairly cramped in there. It's really a good idea to do is go ahead and build a new one with all the new systems where when it's ready, tested, and brought online, they can just move to that without having technicians and workers trying to work in the same space as they are while they're trying to manage the jail. So it was really a good idea to move the whole security control room at the sheriff's request. So we're going to recommend that we move forward with design as part of Gideon Toll's effort, so we can have the same engineering firm design it as the new jail. It'll allow the same manufacturer, it'll allow the same installer, and it'll allow the same learning curve, and will allow the same spare parts on both buildings. Because we hope to maintain this as long as we have this other one. This one out here is about 17 years old, and by the time we finish, it'll be almost 20 or so. We hope the next one will last 20 also. And we hope to just have one system where we can have one set of parts and lower our inventory costs and things of that nature.
So these alternates are about $25 million. In addition to the $91 million that we were talking about. Okay.
Were these ever considered as a part and they had to be taken out to meet the budget?
The first one was probably.
All of these are options, alternates you can select or not select.
But the first one was the only one that was probably originally in.
Yes.
That's the original 91.
I'm sorry, that's correct. The number one was the only one that was originally in the February 2006 project scope. And the very last one, the $8.1 million, is part of a whole different deferred maintenance plan.
So for all intents and purposes, I mean, we could be sitting in a new jail, not in a new jail, and be looking at capital expenditures for a current year budget, and any one of those last three items could be coming forward to us and saying, we need this as a capital item for this current year, and we would do that as we would fund most of our other capital, which might be out of COs or whatever way we would be choosing to fund capital at that point in time.
Plus the kitchen.
That's not separate.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, because the kitchen's not in this one. Okay, you're right, yeah.
Have we not planned to relocate the jail administration offices to the new jail?
I'm sorry? We had, yes, sir, we had put some space in there, some square footage for general office space.
Well, then why is that on this page?
Because when we started cutting square footage down, we had to cut something and leave something, and when we talked with the sheriff's department, they were okay with leaving their jail administrative offices where they're at. We weren't able to put it in the base project.
And they're currently in the plaza?
They're in the new jail.
There's jail administration, like Bob Knowles and his immediate staff is the staff we're talking about. One's in the plaza, is the sheriff and his other administrative to oversee the entire sheriff's department.
I know you just said that, but
I do think, though, that the security control system, that's something that we would be recommending, as soon if it wasn't included in this piece, you would be seeing that coming back to you as a recommendation anyway. Not necessarily now. What David is saying is that we could at least do the architectural issues and the design issues to do that right now. Then we'll come back at a later time to do the main part of that.
It's kind of critical to keep them doors locked. Going back to your question, because I want to be sure I understand. We said number one was in there. Are you saying that originally number 3, that 6.6, was also a part of the original design? I thought that when we moved the sheriff over to the plaza building, that's where we had decided to.
There's two types of offices. Bob Knowles, in his captains and chiefs, and here's the sheriff to probably discuss it better than I can, for sure.
That was my fault. I'm sorry. We in the original design, had looked at moving the jail administrators to the new facility, but as the cost became evident and everything like that, our jail administration is fine in the correction center if we don't plan to use that space for anything else. So we're fine with not moving jail administration to the new facility. And what we're seeing, the cost per square foot of the new facility, it certainly, to me, doesn't make sense now for us to move our administrative offices from the correction center.
How critical are these 96 beds, Steve?
As critical as anything we've done. In a touch of irony, the jail commission is here right now. I think by tomorrow we will again pass jail inspection, but we are again questioned about our percentage of beds, of the overall bed count of medium, minimum, maximum security. And as you know, our maximum security is where we fall into question, and we have once again promised that maximum security beds are on the way. And we've promised for years now that 432 maximum security beds are on the way. And they're starting to look at us with a slightly questionable eye, which is understandable as these delays continue. So, I don't think that there's anything more important to us than getting the 432 beds, no matter what that takes to make that happen. So, to build this facility, to look at the total cost of it, and to visualize it with less than 432 beds, to me, just makes absolutely no sense. If we're going to go to the expense to put this building up and have less than that in it, to me, it's just not a wise decision from a jail management perspective. And my concern about the shell issue, we could get along for several years with the shell out in the 96 beds, but I don't think we've thought through really well what it would take then to come back in and rebuild into that shell. You're talking about building in a secure environment of a jail, or how we'd have to have external elevators or something. I mean, I just think the cost would be astronomical once that building is completed to come back in and put 96 more beds in it. So I think the only wise decision is to, however we manage to do it, is to stick with the 432 and to make that happen.
All right, well,
Sure.
we have found one thing, the relocation of the jail administration offices to the new jail building is not something that the sheriff is pushing and that we don't have to do. That's one of the three items there. The second one is space for pretrial in the correction center. I don't know what the cost involved there is, but let's look at and talk about that a little bit more. And the space for retail commercial in the new jail is not really difficult for me to make a decision on that. So there is $6,616,000 versus the $6,025,000 that's needed for the 432 sales. So I can show you where the money is.
But I mean, all of those are still monies over the amount that we originally budgeted.
Well,
I agree with I hear what you're saying
no,
from that
we
standpoint.
originally budgeted those 96 maximum
Yeah, we did that.
sales.
Sir. And I guess what we're saying is we're swapping, by putting the kitchen over there, you're saying the kitchen cost us 4, and we're giving up 6 over here, so in effect, we've got 2.
That's my question. What would be the ramifications of not building this new kitchen?
The ramifications of that, Commissioner, would be that the current kitchen is held together much like the security control center, and I mean, I understand what this bite is going to take to get this $8 million for that. The current kitchen is held together by baling wire and Band-Aids. I mean, literally, not a day goes by that we don't have something go wrong in that kitchen. And it's just a factor of age and use. 10,000 meals a day grind through that kitchen. And, it is just, I mean, the equipment is old, it's antiquated, it's outdated. We've looked at all avenues. We've looked at completely remodeling it in that current location. Again, inside a secure perimeter, we would have to literally burrow into the basement somehow to make that area accessible. It is just, I mean, we are literally surviving on that kitchen day to day, and it is for the amount of, as our capacity continues to rise, our jail population continues to rise. I mean, to me, it is just an unwise decision not to look at absolutely having a new kitchen that'll withstand that capacity.
And, it's much like the Security Control Center. I would not wish my worst enemy to work in that Security Control Center the way it operates today. Those people are the unsung heroes of our department that work in there. It is just a nightmare of what they go through on a daily basis, and the kitchen officers are much the same way. So, I understand. I mean, I'm as in tune to dollars and cents, I think, as y'all are, but it's just we are just up against it in two areas. We were up against it with the jail bed space, really three, the kitchen and security control. But the security control thing is a separate capital issue. It wasn't ever contemplated as part of the bond package.
Talk a little bit about also, I mean, how expensive is it going to be to convert that to the holding area? I know the judges are very excited, I think, about having that holding area.
We're very excited about it too, Commissioner. And again, hearing the earlier conversation, I don't get too far out on a limb, but I think we will see some absolute cost savings manpower-wise once that happens. I don't know. I'm certainly not a construction person, but it certainly will not be near as complicated to turn that into what we need. We're talking about very basic, wide open spaces, for lack of a better term. Just dividing that space into several holding areas. And, the prisoners are already mixed together when they come down there, so it's not like we've got to have single cells or anything like that built down there. Basically, we're just looking for a staging space for those people that go to court. We're doing it now, as Mr. Phillips said, in the hallway. We're crowding all these people, 167 last Friday morning were in the hallway waiting to go to court. And so it's just, it makes all the sense in the world to me to do it if we have that space available. And I don't think we're talking about a huge expenditure other than getting that kitchen equipment out of there. And I'd let these guys.
Judge, did you ask how much it would cost to do that?
No, I was just, it was along the lines of just
how bad we need it.
How bad we needed it. But I think part of the cost was also, that was a part of the other. And I guess the other question is on the, I thought that when we discussed this before and we were talking about the cost of a maximum security cell, that we were told it was somewhere around $55,000. Nobody's shaking their heads. Y'all are all looking down now.
They're smart people.
And it just seems like, we're spending almost $63,000, and that's to finish out something that's already got a shell around it. Why? Is it that expensive to?
John Costello with Gilbane's here to address some of the various basic cost questions.
John, come on down.
Do we have a sketch in here showing our existing kitchen in the old jail?
It's in there. I don't think you can see it. It's in the background. I can get you one.
How much of that floor is that kitchen? What percentage?
Half. Almost half.
Kitchen and storage is probably.
Kitchen and storage.
Kitchen and storage is probably, for food, is probably half of that basement floor. It's a huge area.
Half of the floor, and so are you going to move the storage? You'll have to move it over with the new jail, right?
We'll have about, the new kitchen will be about 3/4 of a floor, thereabouts, of the new building. 40,000 square foot footprint. Go from about half to about 3/4.
Good morning. Morning.
I guess just, what is causing that? I guess that's almost $63,000 per cell cost and that's after we've already shelled out the space.
Yeah, I would have to go back and put some scenarios together for you, Judge, as far as what similar type maximum security cell projects currently cost. There's not a lot of models out there right now. As you well know, most of the counties are building dorm-style holding facilities, as well as like Dallas County. We even try to model some of the costs after the Dallas County project, which is currently under construction, but that's predominantly dorm cells, dorm space. So, we're more than happy to sit down and go through details with you, but to justify a $55,000 cell against a $63,000 cell, I don't have that analysis.
At what point or how far, and maybe this is something that Mr. Phillips is going to discuss in a minute, at what point are y'all anticipating we're going to have those final numbers and be ready to turn dirt?
Well, as far as turning dirt, I think the current design schedule is somewhere between 12 to 15 months.
He's correct.
So unlike the Family Law Center Judge, where we had, a massive basement that we needed to do and things like that. We really don't have that on this site, so we would anticipate starting around the end of the first quarter sometime next year, if not the second quarter next year. If an opportunity presents itself for us to get started sooner, we'd obviously present that option to the court.
Do we already have all the record storage and the DA's group that works over there relocated?
No, sir, we'll have it this summer. We're in the process of finishing up our lease space finish out, and you'll see at the Commissioner's Court the purchase of some shelving materials to get that moved, and they'll be moved well in advance of the time the building needs to be demolished. The 12 to 15 months that John discussed includes a month or so for Texas Commission on Jail Standards to review and hopefully approve the various stages of the design. It also includes about 60 days for the City of Fort Worth to go through their planning and permitting process. So the actual design piece is most likely around 12 months itself.
60 days.
60 days. That's aggressive with the city of Fort Worth.
No comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
And as with all the projects that we've always brought in front of court, the team's goal is to try and refine these numbers as we move through and we gather more information with the design team. Very similar to what we did on the Family Law Center.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Your Honor, members of the court, just one comment from staff. The comments that the sheriff made as far as the additional 96 maximum security beds, we're fully supportive of that. We believe we need to find any way possible to have them included so that we build out the entire 432 beds.
I agree.
Well, it's a must.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we've been talking about this for the last 8 or 10 years. It's way past time.
Plus, it'll be less expensive to put those beds in now than to come back at a later time and put them in.
Well, I'm not even sure we could do it, to be real honest with you.
I'd like to hand it over to Randy Gideon to go over the design of the jail with you.
That's probably where we're spending all of our money on the architectural design.
Absolutely, those architects. I know the. Good morning, Your Honor,
morning,
Commissioners. I know it looks like we have a design, and we really don't have a design. But everybody will remember this drawing from now on. It may not look like that, but what we're trying to do at this point is it'll be similar. And what we were trying to do is to get a feel for the materials and the detailings and what we expect to happen, so we can get some realistic costs based on our experience at the Family Law Center and some other buildings we're doing downtown right now. And I did want to reflect a little bit on that alternate number 3 and the fact that it may not really be an alternate. It's more of a decision process right now of deciding how we want to approach the building. The reason that we got that savings was because literally if you put all those other uses in there, and I think it says commercial retail, it's really office space. It could be used for county office space, other things. But if you put those things on the ground floor, which was initially our goal, it ratchets everything up to where you end up with a half a floor up above, which would leave us with some, growth space on the top. But it's really space that we couldn't afford, so we pushed it all back down to get rid of a whole floor, and that's what helped us save the money and get it back closer to the budget. And it made those changes. So it's really a decision about kind of a different project if we were to do those things in 3 right now or not. But as far as the building is concerned and the exterior design, as you all know, coming down Belknap Street from east to west, you don't get much of a view of this building because of the correction center. And we've tried to orient the uses of the building where all the services come in between the 2 buildings, since we have service to the correction center already. We back everything up there so that we don't have services in a bunch of different places for security and for control reasons and just, serviceability for the county. So also there's about 8 feet of slope across that side from east to west, so it's really almost a half a floor. So our goal, as you all know, for some of the downtown business purposes was to try to keep activity at the first level. We do have some jail cells at the first level that would be on the Belknap side. The main approach to the building will be from the west on Weatherford in terms of some kind of a visual approach. We've tried to keep the spaces at it, offices, public space, that sort of thing, on the ground level on that southwest corner. Also, with that slope, it allows us to have the kitchen basically at the ground level at the service area, but it'll be at the second level on the west end, which is more efficient and allows us to keep the kitchen much more serviceable and out of the more security as it goes up the building. If you look at the, let's see if we can get that next slide up. Beginning to look at the plan, you can see where we put the public lobby, video visitation, staff areas that could have some type of light, and we can keep openings that look like glass even on the sides where we have cells. This is the ground level, so that we can keep the same type of detailing at the street level and make it pedestrian scale and appealing, and not be a blank wall that looks like a jail, at least at the ground level. And when we do that, it allows us to maintain some of the goals of the downtown Design Review Board and the urban design standards for downtown. I know a couple of other questions were about the skywalk, and I know that that's been discussed. I have discussed that with downtown Fort Worth Inc. staff and with members of the DDRB. There's a review actually of the design standards right now, and they understand the need for it. And having a skywalk here does not necessarily go against any of the goals of the downtown design review standards, because the goal is to get people on the street, and they agreed with me that we probably don't want some of these people on the street. So for office buildings it might be desirable. For jail, they understand why we need the skywalk. And of course, after we get through design, we'll have to have a review with DDRB for the exterior, just like we have on our other projects. As we go on up the tower, I'm going to let Don Olson with Wigington, Hooker, and Jeffrey, our partner on this project, talk a little bit about the design and how, when we push things down, what the arrangements are of the cell floors and how the building works a little bit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Randy mentioned a few things. I don't know if I have yeah, there's a cursor kind of thing. You can notice a few things, as he mentioned about the slope of the site. We tried to put the holding cells on the portion of the building where it have that least kind of impact. You can kind of get an idea of how far below the grade is. You can see the tunnel that comes from the correction center. Right now it comes several feet out to about the edge of the sidewalk, and we're going to link into that, but that's already underground, so that gives you, again, a little bit better scale of what we're looking at. The other options on there, other issues on there, as Randy mentioned, we put the public lobby and visitation at the point that has the least impact. We can get the best scale from the sidewalk and bring people in. Also, that detention staff, those officers, their locker areas, their meeting rooms and such, as they serve the building. The building was designed to be a standalone type facility. It has its own detention staff. It'll have its own facility administrator, whether it's a captain, lieutenant, whatever the sheriff's staffing is. But it is designed to function solely as a standalone. In that, it has several holding cells there by the elevator core that would be for transferring inmates to and from court and such, so as a staging for that. We're not talking about the big area that Randy mentioned and David mentioned. I'll show you that a little bit later. But we do have an area that allows us to stage inmates as we prepare to move them throughout the system. I can hit the next one.
And this is street level on the west end, and it'll be underground on the east end.
Yes, and I'll have a section a little bit later. I'll show you an actual diagonal line that shows you, because it becomes a little bit of a combination of both, but majority it is underground. Level 2, as he was mentioning, the kitchen, you can see from this line as it wraps around that elevator core to this line. This is a 40,000 square foot footprint, so that's a little over 20,000 square foot to handle this new kitchen that's designed to serve 16,500 meals per day.
And the existing kitchen is about?
It's about 19,000 square foot. So we're actually more efficient because of some of the layout. That 19,000 is actual space, where some of this is grossing space, so that it'll be a little bit less than that once we get it laid out. One thing, again, that we were able to do because of the slope of the site, we were able to place the dock, the service area, facing the correction center. So we have one street that's servicing both facilities. We can take advantage of the access to both facilities from that. Also, that let us put everything above grade on this floor, so we can bring in light where we need to. We can bring the dock, the trucks directly into, and we have a raised dock area. So this area in the pale color would actually be at street level. Everything that's in the beige or the gray actually is elevated 4 feet. So truck docks and everything else works very well. Our service area for trash compactors, et cetera. The sheriff's property room is up here in this portion. This is considerably larger than they have currently, obviously for expansion and stuff and that. And it provides direct access. If there's something that needs to come in off the dock area, it can, and it can be secured. So what we're able to do.
Is this property room for this facility only, or for the entire downtown?
For the entire department, actually.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah, it's not inmate property for booking, but it's for the evidence property, et cetera.
It's currently at 300.
And then we are able to still capture some additional storage that can be allocated as the design's refined. Going up to level 3, which actually coincides a little bit closer, it's right below we put all our separation cells. It's a very high density of separation. They take quite a bit more square footage than the single cells because of the additional shower, plus the space that, even though we're showing an exercise area, that space is going to go away because jail standards allows us to put that additional exercise area within the cell itself. Because, again, these are those type inmates that it doesn't work well to move them to general, like you would general population.
You know, my understanding was that was the whole reason we were building these cells, so we never had to touch them.
Exactly.
Or let them out.
So they could stay in their cells 24?
Yeah. What the jail standards, in fact, as we get to the single cell floor, there'll be some continuing discussions with jail commission related to that because, again, those inmates operationally are not planned to be out of their cells very much at all. But right now, the design does comply fully with the jail standards as far as providing them an exercise area. We didn't want to go out on a limb at this point and do something that was an iffy kind of suggestion. This is also where we would plan on the security operation, the control room and such for this building to be located. So the central control, if you will, for this tower would be on this floor.
Now, are we talking about, when we talk about that change in control, are you bringing all the control to that one place, or is it just for that one building?
It's just for the one building.
So the dollars that we're talking about are to create not only this control room, but also the control room in the other building that would mirror this?
No. What is
Okay,
the one in the
tell me how I got lost.
This one that I'm pointing out here now is just for the new jail.
Okay, so what was the $8 million for?
Reconfigure the correction center. The dollars you're looking at on the other page are to reconfigure the correction center, the security control center that exists today.
So that it would match, though, what this new system will be in this building?
Yes, the design, manufacturer, installer, spare parts, and the learning curve and all the operations will be the same.
So really, I don't think that $8 million should even be shown as a part of the new building, since it's really for the old.
I think the only reason that we did want to at least show you that, and you might, when you go back and look at your handouts on that, you're going to see that it's not numbered.
Yeah, it's not numbered. It's down at the
And
bottom.
simply because we wanted to do the design and all of those aspects as we did this, so that you had the same people doing the design, the same layout, the whole issue.
Okay.
We've already brought on the same firm that you had to do that study for the correction center is on our team as part of the new jail facility.
None of these people are part of our project management group, right?
That's correct. The fourth level, this coincides with the medical floor at the existing correction center. This is a 96 beds facility, all set up in different support components. I saw an article just this morning related to suicide in a psychiatric facility. Again, too, one thing I might point out is you'll see we have a support component in the center of this quadrant Wrapped around that would be those cells, the wards and single cells and violent cells, so we can provide direct observation from the support staff of each of those cells. These would be full height walls, full height cell walls. The support area would be all low height working stations, so literally everyone can see everybody and everything within the space. It does link directly to the medical facility and the correction center. At the plan now, this would be all male. The one in the correction center would remain female. And then the different support functions that go with this. Now, we've reviewed each of the projects. I meant to say before I even started talking, we've gone ahead a number of meetings both on program square footages, relationships of one group to another group. We met several times with the JPS folks as far as the layout of this and the program that. So we've gone through with all the different user groups to get to this blocking and stacking kind of concept that we have. The fifth level becomes that single cell floor, an all-male level. The officer's dining room we placed on this area here too to support the facility. Again, looking at a modular indirect type supervision where we can, from our control rooms, we can see everything that goes on in the housing area and in the exercise areas. Now, this is that area I mentioned a little earlier that we'll be visiting with Jail Commission on. Operationally, Chief Knowles doesn't really plan on these inmates being out of their cells very often, again, because of the type of inmates. But to meet the letter of the Jail Commission jail standards, we've added the exercise areas because they've told us we have to do that at this point. But that'll be something we'll want to visit with them, continue that dialogue as we go through the design process. The sixth floor, this is the floor that we'd propose to shell, at least at this point, to get in that. I think it's been mentioned more times than that the sheriff's desires for the 400 need is for the 432 beds. This would have the 336. Again, it's been well discussed throughout the presentation today, so I'll just kind of move forward.
Can you go back to one of those floors and show us the 96-bed layout? Is that the 96?
That's the 96 bed, and it would just be mirrored on the floor directly above.
And again, those are not your maximum security. Those aren't the ones that are large enough for the shower and the exercise area. They are?
No.
Those are separation cells. That's the highest level of security that we have. This is the next level down, people that have to be housed singly, that can't get along, and in some instances can only let one of them out at a time. The other ones will be locked away so that they don't do each other harm. So this is, if you're talking levels, this is the second highest level of security.
And how long do you have to let them out every day?
1 hour of the 24 of this.
And the square footage in those day rooms, that's just
that is still a point of contention with us, Commissioner, as well. This is done on jail standards design, and they're following what jail standards requires and recommends. We are still believing that we can hopefully get jail standards to allow us less day room square footage, and hopefully decrease cost and increase numbers of cells, simply because, as you say, the day room is huge. Can you consider that one person at a time will be in them? But right now, that's what the jail standards is requiring. But we're going to continue to work on that and try to.
Can you divide that exercise area up and how much exercise area do you have to give them?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to allow us to do, to be honest with you.
There are limitations, and there are specific criteria within the jail standards that says that gives you a per square foot per inmate anticipated to be in there at one time, but then they also give you a minimum of 800 square foot for an exercise area. Commissioner, you're correct. The geometry of the layout of single cells is what's driving the size of this day room. It exceeds the minimum jail standards for square footage, but it becomes a function of if you want to see cells and see the inmates that are in there, be able to see your staff, it starts generating this kind of square footage. We've got some ideas in our mind that as we move forward, we'll be looking at different cell types, even that still meet the single cell criteria, that would help us reduce this square footage. We're looking at the worst case scenario here on the size of that.
And remember also that all of our staffing is based around 48 to 1. So if you added, if you told me we can squeeze 4 more cells into that floor, well, then you've had to hire another person around the clock to man that floor. So, you know, Chief Knowles is very, very mindful of how to squeeze the most staffing dollar out of every floor. And, you know, we're very, as I've told y'all all know, we're very fortunate to have him involved in this, because he's very mindful of not only what the jail costs to build, but as we've talked about numerous times, the huge expense of the jail is what does it cost to run the jail.
It seemed to me like if they're stuck at all on that 1 hour, then we've either got to make that exercise room, we got to split it to where we can have 2 people walking around either in the day room or in the exercise room at the same time, or somebody's going to get the 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. exercise time.
They do now. That's their, I mean, we do it currently. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and our, what I keep calling the new jail, the latest new jail, we've got prisoners double-decked in their
Correct.
cells. We have none of that in this facility.
We do not, in this facility, want any kind of upper floor, double-decking, mezzanine, and believe me, Mr. Phillips has run at us on numerous occasions trying to get us to accept a mezzanine jail, and it just, for the type of prisoners we have in this facility, it just, in our mind, creates too big of a security hazard to have to fight people upstairs, down the stairs, have people thrown over balconies, railings, and, you know, they can seal them.
Arguing why.
Seal them off,
Just-
but that
I
is.
was just asking if, so we
that
have no
is the
double
reason.
cells in this facility.
That's correct. We looked at it, but as I said, it's been discussed, and the sheriff's position's pretty clear.
Okay.
One
How
thing
big
is,
are those exercise areas right now?
they're 800 square feet, because we don't anticipate there's ever going to be more than 1 or 2 people in them, and that meets the minimum jail standards. So that's, again, there will be some discussion ongoing. One thing you mentioned on staffing, I thought I would mention, we've located control areas such that a single officer can actually look at or see 96 cells, or excuse me, yes, 96.
48.
No, 48, I'll get it right. Okay. Never mind. I was thinking ahead of myself here. Okay, shell floor, then, of course, the roof area, mechanical penthouse. Building section to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about, the slope. If you can see, it's a little faint, I apologize, but a dashed line of a different color that comes up across the two. And what you can see is here at the street between the two facilities, we're at dock level. We're 8 or 9 foot lower at the southwest corner. As you come up to the corrections center, Chief Knowles' office and the bonding area and such is up at street level, but it's on level 3. So we've got considerable site slope to deal with, but that allows us to put that lobby and visitation and those holdings, those female cells actually below grade for the most part on this ground level. It gives you also a little bit idea of the different size and
So the
massing.
tunnel would actually go on that line that says detention staff over to the kitchen area?
I'm sorry, ask again, sir.
The tunnel would be from that detention staff over into the kitchen area?
Yes. It's actually at this low elevation right now.
And then the kitchen is where you're talking about for creating the new holding cell for the courthouse?
Correct.
Staging area.
Staging area.
And again, that ties in with being able to bring prisoners from the new facility, the brand new facility, over into the correction center and get them to court, again, without ever exposing them to the public, and also having that tunnel take them directly into the court holdover area without bringing them into the...
Here actually is that floor. Where what you see in blue, green, and olive here is the existing kitchen. What we have labeled maintenance is their dry food storage area. So this would be the area that we'd propose to add in the cells required for the court transfer. It allows them to come right in off, if they're coming from one of the other facilities. If it's from the new jail, they just come through the tunnel. If it's from Belknap or Green Bay, it would come through into the existing vehicular sally port. They'd come down the elevator and then go right into this holding area where then they could then be moved through the tunnel to the Justice Center and to the courts. So I jumped across just because there were enough questions related to that. And in the background, you can kind of see some of the freezers and reefers and stuff that are in the existing kitchen. and those would all be taken out, and then we'll backfill it with either holding cells or storage or shelving for laundry or commissary. I'll go back up to where I was, just to this is where we were with the base project. The next slide shows, again, that alternate to go ahead and put the single cells into the 6th floor to finish that out. Here's where that occurs actually in the stacking model, the section of the building. Instead of being shell, that would be the 96-bed housing that's in alternate 1. Slide, we were just looking at what happens within the existing, or what could happen within the existing correction center to backfill that space vacated by the kitchen. And then this was the discussion slide that I think David's already discussed, and Randy mentioning about what might happen if we needed to accommodate retail space, or if the space for detention administration to move over so that the pretrial needs could be filled by backfilling the space vacated by detention administration. We'd end up moving the female beds, because those would need to occupy, some of those would need to occupy that 1st floor of the new jail. The female beds that are currently there in the basement would need to move up to the roof, or to another floor up in the building. So it's a real domino, and you can see how detailed it would be, almost a different design if this needed to be addressed. So with that, I'll turn it back over to David.
In that sketch that we'll probably never see again is about 7 floors. Is that actually about the height of what it would look like?
Yes, sir. That's,
I mean, I really do like the way it looks, so.
it looks proportionally, it works with the buildings being shorter as well, I think.
It doesn't look like a jail. And the reason we're able to do that is because the windows that we have there are not, they're away from the cells. They're in no way touching. That's the kind of a walk area between the cells and the windows.
It's a maintenance space. I'll go back to that real quick. You can see it in there's a space all the way around the outside that would be secure, which is also helpful for they can do maintenance without getting into the secure area, and it holds it off the window wall, so we can do our openings on the exterior the way we need to do them, and we can use.
It is very attractive, and it meets our original discussions of not giving it an institutional look.
Gives us the flexibility to do some different things on the skin, and we can use, spandrel glass or other things maybe where you can't even see through it, but it also allows us to get some natural light into those workspaces.
Yeah, it'd probably be a pretty good idea that you can't see. Well, of course, if you're not looking into the cells, it probably doesn't make as much difference.
Well, we could have spandrel glass up so high, and vision glass above that even. So we got some opportunities.
I assume that even without the retail on the ground floor, you can pretty that area up and make it look.
We have the same opportunity with the maintenance space, so there's some things we could do with the openings on that side, and we've got to get handicap accessibility on that side anyway, so we'll have kind of a portico situation, we think, on the west side. So I think we can make the ground floor look like a traditional pedestrian scale ground floor for a building downtown.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good.
The next steps. We would like to, staff is recommending that Commissioners Court approve moving forward with design of the base project, and also design of the additional beds, and designing the correction center security system as part of the Gideon Told and Gilbane's effort. We would bring back a architectural contract for Commissioners Court to approve that would include those items in probably 3 weeks or so. We'll start design tomorrow, but we just probably wouldn't get the contract back to you for 3 or 4 weeks.
And then go through those items again.
Commissioner, what we'd like to do is for the Commissioners Court to approve the base project.
Okay.
And the alternate one, which is the additional, fills out the full 432 beds. And also in the correction center regarding the security control fire alarm replacement, to do that design concurrently with the design of the fire alarm and security control system in the new jail, and bid it at the proper time. And whether or not it comes out of the bond funds, that's a Commissioner's Court decision, but at least do the design concurrently. And also, we may want to look at the court holding area. We could move forward with design on that, if you'd like also. That's why we're here.
I move approval on those 4 items you said, recognizing that we may need to build the control area out of other funds, and we may or may not do the holding area, but we ought to design it all.
So,
Do we need that action today?
Well, we're simply trying to move forward on some of this. I mean,
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just asking a question. I thought you were going to wait. You wanted to wait until you brought us back the costing and what have you.
no, so we'll probably bring that to the architectural. Once the court makes the decision on what to include in the architect's work, that will probably drive some of the negotiations regarding the architectural contract. So we can direct the architects to move forward with the base project. They won't miss a day, and we can bring back this to you next week if you like.
The base project not including any of those items that's currently on the screen.
Well, they won't do that in a week. They'll probably just move on with developing the schematic design. The next thing we'll bring back to you as far as design, in about 90 days or so, we'll bring back to you the final schematic design, which lays out the exact rooms and a more detailed cost estimate, an updated cost estimate. But we'll need to give the architect's direction regarding, and we don't have to do it today, but we need to give the architect's direction regarding these alternates.
Now, David, let me ask you a question. By authorizing the architects to begin the design piece of this, that doesn't mean that we're going to automatically include all of this in the package. We're going to add alternates, right? Is that how you see that?
Yes, I do. Now, if the court would like, we don't have to do an add alternate on the beds, the additional beds, because there is quite a bit of work involved in making those bid packages, put together those things, the bid packages, and having separate sheets. It's almost just as practical to go ahead and design them in the first time without having additional costs for design fees.
Can I ask a question? If we've got a floor that's got 96 beds on it and it's got everything on it that's identical to the next floor that's got 96 beds on it, there's not much of a cost other than just copying the 196 to the next 96?
That's a Randy Gideon question.
So that's not going to cost me thousands of dollars for you to copy one and say, change the 4 to 5, is it?
It's on a different floor.
Well, yeah, but I'm halfway serious about this.
I know you are. The arrangement obviously will be the same. That's 2 different questions. If we do it as an alternate, there is additional administrative cost to preparing a separate package. It's almost like preparing 2 jobs. Even though the design is basically the same, you still have different issues, how it's hooked up to different issues of timing, of how we connect to systems, and all that has to be explained. And if you handle it as an alternate, that has to be dealt with. So there's some expense to that. It's going to be the cost of
Give me
moving
an
one.
idea when you say there's going to be some cost to that, because again, if I'm a contractor and I'm building a floor and I know what that floor is going to cost me, and I know I'm going to go up 8 feet higher or 12 feet higher and build the same floor again, explain to me why how much more are we talking about?
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to look at it. It just
How much
depends
it
if it's
cost you to
handled as
look
an
at
ad
it?
alternate or if it's in the original building.
It needs to be a part of the original design.
I mean,
Well, it does, as long as we can, and we probably will build it. But I guess I'm just saying that if we say put it into the original design and then we decide later on, nope, not going to be in there,
well, I would probably do it as an ad alternate package.
and how much is that going to cost me?
I don't know what the premium is, but I'll tell you when we come back. I need to talk to all my consultants and everybody else. So for me to say something now would be to commit for a whole bunch of people that might be sitting back there going, what an idiot.
Well, when you come back with that extra cost, make sure all those folks come with you to
Don't
explain
worry.
why you're not an idiot when you
Don't worry.
put a whole lot of money in that deal.
Don't worry. I'll have some help.
Well, I don't think it's an option. I don't think it needs to be an add optional. I think we need to include it in the original building. That's what we passed a bond issue for. This is what our requirements were. So why spend this extra money that you're going to come back and tell us?
I agree. I mean, I think it should be in there. That's, the court's decision on the cost. But from an effective standpoint and from never building it cheaper, I mean, now's the time to do it. Even waiting a year or putting it off for a year, it'll cost more than it costs to just do it as a part of the project.
So your motion is not to make that an alternate anymore, it's to put it a part of the
The
original?
motion is to make it a part of the original design and to also design these other features as add alternate.
And that would be 2 and 3, but what about the new construction?
No, not
So just 2 and 3?
2 and the Correction Center Security Control.
All but 3.
All but?
All but number 3.
Ruled 3 out, I think.
Okay, so right now I have a motion to, tell me what I have a motion for.
Judge, you have a motion to move forward with design for the base bid and alternates, to include in the base bid the full group, the 432 beds, along with the number 2, which is the court holding area design, and we will bid that as an add alternate because it is a different building, and also the design incorporated concurrently of the Correction Center security control and fire alarm systems, so they can bid that concurrently and bring it back as a separate number.
That was my motion.
Good. And I will second that motion. Any other discussion? And when do you think this is going to be back to us?
3 to 4 weeks, but they will start work this afternoon on what you vote on.
The contract.
Contract. Now, the schematic design, the actual, an update of how the building lays out, will be back to you, I'm told, by the architects in 90 days. I'm told they'll be complete in 90 days. And we'll have an updated cost estimate by then.
So July 15th, you're going to be in here? Go ahead and put it on the agenda.
I will be back July 15th.
And the contract will be here on June the 15th?
No,
May the 15th?
30 days, 30, 45 days, for sure. We got to involve our DA's office, so that's got a few days.
Flexing a little now.
Randy, might I remind you of our commitment to run this through the downtown business community?
Yes, sir. I will take care of setting that up.
July the 15th happens to be on a Tuesday, so that'll work out just
Well, certainly looking forward to it. Yes, sir.
I'll be out of the country.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Van Ravensway not present at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
The Commissioners Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
I know.
Where's your hammer?
It's over there.